In this community, we talk about stockpiling ammunition all the time. We talk about how much you need, how to store it, but we don't often talk about why you need to stockpile ammunition. And there's some obvious reasons. Oh, in case you need to go hunting, sure. Oh, for self-defense, duh. But there's some more complicated reasons as to why you want thousands of rounds of ammunition. Most of us aren't going to need that amount of ammo for hunting or self-defense purposes. And if you need that many rounds for either, you either need to be better at aiming in the sense of hunting, or you are very, very good at what you do in the sense of self-defense. So why do we need to stockpile thousands and thousands of rounds of ammunition? Well, let's talk about that. But really quickly, if you are stockpiling ammo because you're one of the good people that live within this community, then hit the subscribe button below, because I guarantee you haven't ran as fast as you can in the last 60 days. So, that being said, one of the main reasons I stockpile ammunition is because access could be limited at any point in time. And obviously, access is exactly what we want. We want to be able to go out and get ammunition whenever we want. But unfortunately, things don't always work that way. And there's supply chain issues, which we all know and ran into, especially back in 2020. There's also the issue of rationing during wartime scenarios. And there's government tyrannical control, which could happen at any point in time. So access is a big deal, and being able to have access to ammunition during any type of emergency situation could be very beneficial, regardless of whether or not you could go down to Walmart and actually buy some. So, access is important, but what do we need all that ammo for when the time comes? And that's exactly what we need to talk about, because that's even more important than just having it, right? So, one of the biggest things, and the thing that I've ran into in a negative way here very recently, is practice. And when I say practice, I mean getting out and maintaining your skills and your efficiency with your firearms. And that sounds like it should be easy to do. And a lot of people only have the luxury of getting to the range once a month or once a year or however frequently they can. And that's probably not enough practice. But even if you were to do that during a long-term SHTF scenario where you couldn't access ammo any longer, how much would the ammo you have on hand actually last? And being able to train and be proficient is going to be very important if you ever need those skills during that time. And this is actually a big one for me, because now that I have my own range here on the property, I burn through ammo much faster than I ever imagined, which makes stockpiling it somewhat difficult in many ways, because I just need more ammo all the time. So speaking of that, the biggest supporter of the channel is Midway USA. And of course, they always try to take care of me as best they can, but listen, there's a lot of ammo that I need, and they're trying their best to help me out. But look, if you need help too, Midway USA has you covered. So a big thanks to them. So moving on from there, other than training and maintaining proficiency, because that matters. And honestly, you really just can't train enough. You can be very, very good and still need to be better, right? So training's huge, and even during a long-term event, you're still gonna wanna be able to keep your skills up. And even if that means just getting things zeroed or making sure that things are still operating properly, you need rounds to spend in order to do that. So moving on from there, what about the idea of developing a team? Do you have a team in place? Do you have a group that might rely on you during an SHTF scenario? Do you have enough ammunition to either A, logistically support that team during that trying time, aka making sure everyone has their loadout covered? And what does that mean? Well, in general, in the military, I believe they generally run a 7-magazine loadout, which for your standard capacity AR-15 is going to be 210 rounds. So do you have 210 rounds times however many people might be in your group? Should it be your responsibility to have to arm everybody? No. But would it be beneficial if you could, especially if they weren't able to? Probably. So imagine how many rounds that could add up to very quickly, especially if your group is of a certain size. That's something that I would definitely be considering. Not to mention, you also might need to train those people. Maybe they have some familiarity with firearms. Maybe they have their own weapons as well. But have they trained on them enough? Are they proficient enough to actually trust them if you find yourself in a kinetic situation? These are all questions that you should be able to answer, but with that additional ammunition that you've been stockpiling, you might actually be able to not only make sure they have a full sustainable loadout, but also be able to get them up to par with what your requirements are in the sense of proficiency with a firearm. So, what else? Because there are other things that we should definitely consider when it comes to why we stockpile ammunition. The government stockpiles ammo too. So if they're doing it, you should probably do it. And they're probably doing it for the same reasons that we need to do it. So consider that when you're thinking about this whole endeavor. The government stockpiling ammo, why? Well, maybe they can't get it at some point. Maybe they won't have enough at some point. Maybe they need to train a draft army of people who are suddenly enlisted and don't necessarily have the skills required to be in a military? I don't know. But all those things come into consideration, which allows us to also consider if they're doing it, I should probably too, for the same reasons. So keep that in mind as another motivator for why you might want to be stockpiling ammo, because the government is also doing it, right? But the other thing you might want to keep in mind is that it has a lot of value. Now, bartering ammo is a dangerous game, and it's not something I necessarily suggest. However, ammo can have an extreme amount of value post SHTF, especially when it comes to things like hunting rounds, or even better, varmint rounds. So all you have to do is have a strategized plan in place for how you'll determine value of your ammunition and weigh out the risk versus reward. Some people will tell you to never sell or trade ammo during an emergency situation. Okay, that's fine. If that's what makes you comfortable, then I think that's a good plan. But there are times where you can mitigate some of the risk while still having a lot of value when it comes to what you're able to provide. So what I mean by that is, let's say maybe there's some kind of local determination as to what things are becoming worth now because ammunition's scarce, but you were smart and you stockpiled it. So maybe you can trade, I don't know, 3 rounds of .22 long rifle for a rabbit or for small game of any kind. Okay, great. Well, now you just got yourself some food. You gave somebody 3 rounds out of your 5,000 round box of .22 long rifle. They can now hopefully go procure more food. Well, at least maybe, 3 rabbits worth at the most. And the risk of them turning on you with that .22 long rifle cartridge is at least less than if you were handing out 50 BMG to everybody in order to get a quarter beef, right? So it will have value. It'll always have value. And there are times where you might need to rely on that value. Not to mention the leverage that it provides you with as the guy who can supply everybody with ammunition. And that's going to be another video when it comes to reloading and preparedness. But in general, these are the reasons why I stockpile ammo. And I want your thoughts down below in the comments. Why do you stockpile it? Or let's just say you don't stockpile it, but why would some theoretical person in a hypothetical situation be stockpiling it? Because these are good conversations for us to have. And obviously, my thought process might be flawed, or I might hopefully be onto something here. And I love hearing that feedback from you all as well. But this is an important thing to consider because I can tell you that you should have 10,000 rounds of ammo. I can tell you that you should have all the ammo in the world and how to store it. But the why matters sometimes. And you really need to figure out the why. And luckily, when it comes to things like your group, and you have a mutual assistance group of, let's just say, 10 people, and I know I need 210 rounds to suffice as a loadout for somebody who might be out there helping me with security. Okay, well, 10 times 210, that's 2,100. So I should probably have at least 2,100 rounds of 5.56 or whatever other 30-round standard capacity cartridge you're using. There you go. Math makes it a lot easier now, and you know what to plan for. So it doesn't have to be some universal number, but it should give you some reasons as to why you need probably more than just what supplies yourself. Just my 2 cents. You have anything else for me, you know what to do. Go to magicprepper.com. And besides that, it's going to be it for Magic Prepper.